Your pain isn't a sign of weakness. It's proof you're human. Pain comes to us all. That moment when something breaks inside, when relationships crumble, when dreams shatter, when life forces you to face an ending you never wanted. Most of us try to escape this pain. We distract ourselves. We deny it. We mask it with false positivity. But what if pain isn't something to avoid? What if it's actually the doorway to your freedom? Today, we're walking through a four-step journey that transforms how you handle emotional wounds. Let it end. Let it hurt. Let it heal. Let it go. This isn't about quick fixes or empty promises. This is about the deep work that changes everything. The work that lets you finally release what's been weighing you down. Many stay trapped in cycles of hurt because they miss crucial steps in this process. They try to heal without fully ending things. They attempt to let go without allowing themselves to feel the hurt. The path we're about to walk isn't easy, but it leads to something powerful, a version of you that carries wisdom instead of wounds, a life where past pain no longer controls your present moments. Life speaks to us through patterns. When the same pain visits you again and again, that's a message, first as a whisper, then as a scream. Toxic relationships don't improve with time. They become more suffocating. That job draining your spirit won't suddenly fill you with purpose. Those habits destroying your health won't magically transform into something good. Our bodies know before our minds catch up. Constant exhaustion, stomach knots when you see their name on your phone, anxiety that follows you like a shadow. These physical symptoms aren't random. They're wisdom trying to break through your denial. Endings announce themselves through repeated cycles. The same arguments, same promises, same disappointments. When progress becomes impossible and patterns become prisons, it's time to acknowledge what's happening. We stay in painful situations because familiar pain feels safer than unknown possibilities. We convince ourselves that suffering known discomfort beats facing unfamiliar territory. This is how we become trapped, mistaking comfort for safety, familiarity for necessity. Many cling to potential rather than reality, not seeing what is, but what could be. This dangerous hope keeps us invested in situations that will never change. We sacrifice our present for a future that exists only in our imagination. Some stay because leaving means admitting a mistake, others because they've built identities around their struggles. Many because society rewards those who endure rather than those who choose their own well-being. Facing reality requires rare courage. It means looking directly at what is, not what you wish existed. It means acknowledging that some things cannot be fixed, only finished. Some bridges cannot be repaired, only burned. This courage doesn't arrive as certainty. It comes as quiet clarity, amid confusion, as a still voice beneath the chaos, as the part of you that knows the truth, even when every other part resists it. Reality is both mirror and doorway. When you finally see things as they truly are, you also see the path forward. Clarity about what must end creates space for what waits to begin. The ending you fear might be the beginning you need. Ending what hurts you isn't selfish, it's survival. Walking away from what diminishes you is an act of courage rooted in self-respect. Though society often glorifies those who endure suffering, true strength is found in saying, "No more." Every time you leave what damages you, you make a powerful statement. You declare that your peace matters, your happiness counts, your well-being isn't negotiable. This boundary setting isn't just self-protection, it's self-love in its most authentic form. People stay in toxic situations hoping for change that never comes. They sacrifice years waiting for others to become different versions of themselves. But people reveal who they are through consistent actions, not occasional promises. When someone shows you repeatedly who they are, believe them the first time. Endings become necessary when growth becomes impossible, when conversations turn circular, when respect erodes beyond repair, when trying harder produces nothing but deeper exhaustion, when what once gave life now takes it away. Certainty rarely precedes action. Most wait for absolute clarity before making difficult choices, but clarity often arrives only after taking the first step. Action creates clarity, not the other way around. Movement forward reveals what standing still never could. Closure begins with honest acknowledgement, naming what happened without minimizing or exaggerating, seeing both good and bad without selective memory, recognizing that something can be both beautiful and broken, both precious and poisonous. Communication provides clean endings when possible, speaking truth without cruelty, setting boundaries without apology, explaining without expecting understanding. But sometimes the kindest closure is silence, walking away without further words that would only wound. Physical distance creates emotional space, removing reminders, changing routines, creating separation that allows new patterns to form. This distance isn't about erasing history, but creating room for a different future. Rituals mark significant transitions. Writing letters never sent, burning old possessions, speaking final words aloud to empty rooms. These symbolic acts help the mind process what the heart already knows. Ending something significant feels like losing a piece of identity. This discomfort doesn't mean you've made a mistake. It means you're growing beyond what once defined you. That empty space isn't just loss, it's possibility waiting to be filled. Pain demands attention for a reason. It carries messages we need to hear. Yet most run from emotional pain, burying it under work, numbing it with distractions, drowning it in substances. This avoidance seems logical in the moment. Why feel what hurts when there are countless ways to escape it? What we resist persists. Pain avoided doesn't disappear. It goes underground. It transforms into anxiety that has no name, into anger that finds the wrong targets, into disconnection from everything that might bring joy. Pain dodged becomes suffering prolonged, a ghost that haunts every room of life. Emotions need movement to complete their purpose. Grief, anger, disappointment, these energies must flow through us, not become stuck within us. When emotions aren't processed, they become stored in the body. Tension that never releases, exhaustion that never lifts, symptoms that medicine can't explain. All healing begins with willingness to feel, to name what hurts without judgment, to sit with discomfort without immediately trying to fix or escape it. This radical acceptance isn't resignation. It's the foundation of genuine change. Emotional pain serves as both compass and teacher. It points toward what matters most. It highlights values violated. It reveals needs unmet. Without this feedback system, we would stay lost, moving through life without the guidance system designed to keep us whole. Pain strips away pretense. In our most broken moments, we discover what remains when everything superficial falls away. We learn who stands with us when there's nothing to gain. We find resources within ourselves we never knew existed. This stripping away isn't punishment, it's clarification. Facing pain transforms it from enemy to ally. What we turn toward loses power over us. What we name becomes smaller than what we feared. What we feel fully can finally be released. This counterintuitive truth changes everything. The only way out is through. Growth happens at the edges of comfort. Major life shifts rarely come during easy times. They arrive during breakdowns that lead to breakthroughs. During moments when familiar patterns collapse and new possibilities emerge. Pain often precedes transformation, not as punishment, but as catalyst. Those who fully process difficult emotions develop emotional resilience. They learn that feelings, no matter how intense, will not destroy them. They discover that vulnerability creates strength. They build confidence in their ability to handle whatever comes next. This capacity isn't born from avoiding storms, but from weathering them directly. Processing emotions effectively requires balance. Feeling without drowning, acknowledging without becoming consumed. This delicate middle path opens when we approach emotions with curiosity instead of fear. Naming emotions creates immediate distance. I notice sadness is present, creates space between self and feeling that I am sad does not. This subtle shift changes everything, transforming emotions from identity to experience, from permanent state to passing weather. Physical movement breaks emotional stagnation, running until tears flow, dancing until tension releases, shaking until the body discharges stored stress. These primal responses tap into ancient wisdom. Emotions are energy in motion, designed to move through us, not get trapped within us. Breathing intentionally regulates nervous system responses. Slow exhales, longer than inhales, activate rest and digest functions. 4-count square breathing prevents emotional flooding. These simple techniques work because body and emotions are inseparably connected. Calm one and you calm the other. Journaling without filters allows unprocessed material to surface. Writing without stopping, without editing, without worrying about who might read it. This stream of consciousness approach bypasses the critical mind, giving voice to parts of ourselves that rarely speak. Wallowing differs fundamentally from processing. Wallowing repeats the same thoughts without insight. Processing explores emotions with purpose. Wallowing strengthens neural pathways of pain. Processing creates new neural connections. Wallowing asks, why me? Processing asks, what now? Time limits prevent emotional exploration from becoming emotional dwelling. Setting 20 minutes for grief work, 10 minutes for anger release, 5 minutes for anxiety examination. These boundaries ensure emotions are honored without becoming all-consuming. Safe spaces make emotional processing possible. Physical environments free from judgment or interruption. Relationships where authentic expression is welcomed. Time set aside specifically for emotional integration. Without these sanctuaries, deeper feelings remain buried, too dangerous to acknowledge without proper container. Trusted witnesses amplify healing, friends who listen without trying to fix, therapists trained in emotional processing, support groups where others understand. Being truly seen in pain creates profound healing that self-work alone cannot provide. Compassion transforms how we handle difficult emotions, speaking to ourselves as we would to a struggling friend, meeting pain with kindness instead of criticism, approaching wounds with gentleness instead of judgment. This compassionate presence lets us face what harshness never could. Rituals create completion, writing letters, then burning them, speaking final words aloud, creating symbolic representations of what's being released. These meaningful acts help the brain register that something significant has shifted, that one chapter has closed so another can begin. Genuine healing arrives quietly, often unannounced. One morning you wake up and notice their name doesn't immediately tighten your chest. During dinner, you realize hours have passed without that familiar ache intruding. These moments don't announce themselves as milestones. They simply appear as subtle shifts in an inner landscape slowly changing. Healing isn't about forgetting what happened. It's about remembering without being overtaken by emotion, about carrying experiences without being defined by them, about integrating painful chapters into a larger life story without allowing them to become the entire narrative. Most expect healing to follow a straight path, moving steadily from broken to whole. Reality proves messier, good days followed by sudden backslides. Weeks of progress interrupted by triggers that temporarily return you to square one. This unpredictable journey isn't failure, it's how human recovery actually works. Progress in healing resembles spirals rather than lines, returning to similar emotional territory but from slightly different perspectives each time, revisiting old wounds with new resources, seeing painful patterns with expanding awareness. Each loop around brings deeper understanding, though it might temporarily feel like moving backward. Social pressure often rushes healing processes that require patience. Well-meaning advice to move on or get over it misunderstands how recovery works. Deep wounds heal from the inside out, layer by layer, each at its own pace that cannot be artificially accelerated. Small victories signal healing in motion, finding humor again in unexpected places, becoming interested in activities once abandoned, noticing beauty without immediate sadness following, making plans for future months without hesitation. These subtle shifts matter more than dramatic breakthroughs. Dreams reflect inner healing before conscious awareness catches up, confronting rather than fleeing dream scenarios, finding new solutions to recurring dream problems. These nighttime narratives reveal subconscious processing happening beneath waking awareness. Identity transforms as healing progresses, moving from victim of circumstance to survivor of experience to creator of meaning. This evolution happens naturally as integration allows painful events to become part of personal wisdom rather than defining characteristics. Space opens up inside as healing advances. Mental bandwidth previously occupied by rumination becomes available for new thoughts. Emotional energy once consumed by pain becomes fuel for fresh connections. This internal spaciousness creates room for possibilities previously unimaginable. Healing becomes visible in relationships. Boundaries form naturally where defensiveness once stood. Authentic vulnerability replaces protective armor. Discernment develops where desperation once drove choices. These relational shifts reflect inner work manifesting in outer connections. Consistent daily practices build resilience without fanfare. Morning routines that ground before chaos enters. Evening rituals that process accumulated tension. Midday pauses that reset nervous systems activated by stress. These micro practices don't require hours of commitment. Even 5 focused minutes repeated daily rewires neural pathways more effectively than occasional intensive efforts. Body-based approaches access emotional material that thinking alone cannot reach. Yoga postures that release stored tension. Meditation that creates space between thoughts. Breathwork that regulates overwhelmed nervous systems. These physical practices bypass intellectual defenses, creating healing at cellular levels where trauma remains stored. Creative expression unlocks what logical processing cannot access, drawing emotions without worrying about artistic skill, writing poetry that doesn't need to rhyme or make sense, making music that expresses what words cannot. These creative channels open doorways to material too raw or complex for straightforward articulation. Nature accelerates healing through multiple channels simultaneously. Fractals in landscapes that mathematically calm visual processing centers, negative ions near water that reduce inflammation, soundscapes that regulate heart rates, plant compounds that boost immune function. These natural elements work synergistically, supporting recovery systems beyond what any single intervention could achieve. Self-compassion transforms recovery speed more powerfully than any external factor, treating failures as information rather than indictments. Speaking to ourselves as we would to beloved friends facing similar struggles, questioning inner narratives that demand perfection while allowing others humanity. This radical self-kindness isn't indulgence. It's biological necessity for optimal brain function during healing. Rest becomes non-negotiable medicine during recovery periods. Sleep that allows neural processing of emotional material. Daytime pauses that prevent stress hormones from accumulating beyond manageable levels. Boundaries around energy expenditure that honor limited resources during rebuilding phases. This strategic rest isn't laziness, but essential rebuilding time. Community connection provides healing impossible in isolation. Groups where stories are witnessed without judgment. Friendships that offer both challenge and acceptance. Mentors who have walked similar paths and emerged transformed. These relationships become safety nets during inevitable moments when individual strength falters. Environments shape recovery invisibly but profoundly. Physical spaces cleared of reminders that trigger regression. Digital boundaries that protect vulnerable healing processes from disruption. Daily routines restructured to support new patterns rather than reinforcing old ones. These environmental factors create containers where healing accelerates naturally. Meaning making transforms suffering into wisdom that serves, finding purpose in pain without glorifying it, identifying lessons without minimizing injury, creating value from experience without denying its cost. This meaning-oriented approach doesn't erase scars, but makes them worth having earned. Forgetting differs fundamentally from letting go. Forgetting seeks to erase what happened, pretending wounds never existed. Letting go acknowledges every scar while removing emotional charge from memories. This distinction matters deeply. Those trying to forget remain chained to what they deny. Those who truly let go can remember without being recaptured by pain. Neutrality toward triggers signals readiness for release. Seeing their name without emotional flooding. Passing meaningful locations without being transported back in time. Hearing songs once painful without needing to change stations. These moments of neutrality arrive not through force, but through thorough processing that naturally dissolves emotional residue. Stories change as readiness for release approaches, moving from victim-centered narratives to growth-oriented accounts, from "this was done to me" to "this happened and shaped me." This evolution happens organically as meaning integrates with experience, transforming definitive traumas into chapters within larger life stories. Energy previously devoted to processing pain becomes available for new pursuits. Creative impulses emerge spontaneously. Interest in future possibilities replaces fixation on past injuries. Curiosity about unexplored directions awakens. This redirection of life force happens naturally when emotional processing completes its necessary cycle. Compassion extends toward those who caused harm without excusing their actions, understanding human brokenness without needing to remain in its path, seeing how hurt people without volunteering to be their target. This compassionate perspective comes not from spiritual bypass, but from genuine healing that no longer needs others to be villains. Forgiveness becomes possible not as obligation, but as gift to self, releasing the burden of carrying resentments too heavy for human hearts, surrendering the exhaustion of maintaining emotional vigilance, accepting imperfect justice in an imperfect world. This forgiveness doesn't deny accountability, it simply refuses to serve life sentences for crimes others committed. Physical sensations signal readiness at bodily levels. Shoulders that finally relax after years of tension. Breath that moves freely through previously constricted spaces. Digestive systems that function normally after stress-induced disruption. These physical shifts reflect nervous systems no longer living in fight or flight responses to past wounds. Lightness arrives as unmistakable marker of true release. Weight lifted from chest that once felt permanent. Mental clarity where fog previously dominated. Emotional bandwidth for joy, play, and connection previously consumed by processing pain. This lightness isn't forced positivity, but authentic liberation from what once felt inescapable. Freedom comes not from controlling outcomes, but from releasing attachment to specific results, from surrendering the need for apologies that may never arrive, from accepting that some questions will remain forever unanswered. This radical acceptance brings peace impossible to find through continued demands that reality conform to desired narratives. Pain alchemizes into wisdom when fully processed. Betrayal transforms into discernment about who deserves trust. Rejection converts to clarity about personal values. Loss evolves into deeper appreciation for what remains. This transformation doesn't happen automatically. It requires intentional meaning making that extracts lessons from suffering. Scars become stories worth telling, not to gain sympathy, but to offer maps for others walking similar paths, not to define identity, but to illuminate possibilities for transformation. This sharing transforms private suffering into collective wisdom, personal wounds into communal healing. Difficult experiences develop capacities unavailable through comfortable lives. Resilience built through surviving what once seemed unbearable. Compassion deepened by intimate knowledge of human fragility. Authenticity forged in fires that burn away pretense. These qualities can't be inherited or purchased. They must be earned through direct encounter with life's challenges. Perspective shifts permanently after major healing work completes. Small irritations that once dominated consciousness shrink to appropriate size. Gratitude emerges spontaneously for ordinary moments previously overlooked. Priorities clarify as distractions fall away. This recalibrated perspective becomes the invisible gift of visible suffering. New identities form beyond victim narratives: survivor, thriver, wisdom keeper, guide. These expansive self-concepts create space for agency impossible within narrower identities defined primarily by what happened rather than what was overcome. Boundaries establish naturally from earned self-respect, clearly seeing what deserves access to limited energy, confidently declining what doesn't align with core values, effortlessly protecting hard-won peace. These boundaries flow from genuine self-worth rather than defensive fear, creating permeable yet strong protection around recovered hearts. Freedom arrives not through avoiding triggers, but through neutralizing their power, moving through previously dangerous territory without being captured by old reactions, facing similar situations with new responses. This freedom comes not from controlling external environments, but from transforming internal landscapes. Present moment awareness becomes possible when past pain no longer demands constant attention, fully experiencing simple pleasures without shadows from yesterday, engaging completely in conversations without dissociative escapes, inhabiting physical sensations without numbing or distraction. This presence isn't performance but natural expression of integrated experience. Life force previously consumed by unfinished emotional business becomes available for creation and connection. Energy for new projects emerges seemingly from nowhere. Capacity for deep relationships expands beyond previous limitations. Motivation for long abandoned dreams reawakens. This vitality isn't manufactured, but simply uncovered as healing removes what once blocked natural expression. Joy returns not as forced positivity, but as authentic response to life, free from constant pain management. Spontaneous laughter that surprises even yourself. Delight in simple moments, once invisible behind veils of suffering. Play that emerges naturally rather than through deliberate effort. This joy becomes not goal, but byproduct of thorough healing work. Pain transforms when we honor its complete cycle, when we allow endings their finality, when we give hurt the space it demands, when we embrace healing's messy timeline, when we release what no longer serves us. This journey isn't about toxic positivity or spiritual bypassing. It's about moving through difficulty honestly, completely, and with profound respect for our humanity. About trusting that pain serves purpose when we refuse to get stuck in any single phase. Some wounds leave permanent marks. Some losses change us forever. But even these deep injuries lose their power to control our lives when processed fully. What once felt like prison becomes portal to unexpected freedom. The 4 steps we've explored: let it end, let it hurt, let it heal, let it go, create space for authentic transformation. They offer path from merely surviving to genuinely thriving, from being defined by what happened to being expanded by how you responded. Your capacity to move through this cycle isn't just personal healing, it's revolutionary act in world that teaches avoidance, numbing, and premature closure. Your willingness to feel deeply creates ripples far beyond what you can see. If this message resonated with you, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more content on emotional healing and personal growth.